popular London music festivals All Points East and British Summertime have been recognised by organisation A Greener Future for their sustainable practices this year. AEG, the company who runs both festivals, received certification for their initiatives, which not only protects the capital's green spaces but enhances them as well. Keris spoke with Sam Booth from AEG and the CEO of A Greener Future, Claire O'Neill, to find out more.
Audience transport is one of the biggest potential impacts. Also, people are eating on site. Obviously, they eat at home as well, but if you take responsibility for that as an organiser, then certain types of food are much more impactful on the environment than others. There's also transport of the equipment. Artists, obviously, they need to travel as well. And then one of the most visible is waste. So we've had over a number of years, especially for camping events, people have started to leave things behind. So there's been the last decade or more of trying to encourage audiences and people attending festivals to know that actually a tent is for life and not for a festival. So to take those things home with you.
And Sam, you guys at the AEG have just received certification from A Greener Future for a couple of your London festivals, so BST in Hyde Park and also All Points East. What are some of the sustainable initiatives that you've implemented that have helped you to achieve this certification?
Well, I mean, firstly, we're very lucky that we are central London based, which means that we have access to incredible public transport networks, which essentially means that most people are coming to our festivals via public transport, which is first and foremost the best thing that you can do to help an event become more sustainable. But over the years, we've done a number of other kind of more mechanical changes. So a number of years ago, we started using HVO fuel, which is a kind of renewable version of diesel essentially, which has a much lower carbon footprint than traditional diesel. We also did some big initiatives this year on our waste. So we really focused on trying to keep all of our waste streams as clean as possible so that they could be taken away and recycled in the most responsible way possible. Our fans have a huge, impact upon that. It's very busy at some of our festivals, and when people are rushing to go and see a headliner, sometimes they don't read some of the signage that we put up. But ideally, we put as much signage as we do around the festival to try and encourage people to help us be as good as we can be. And as part of that, we've got a lot of systems back of house, especially at All Points East, where we had kind of a back of house waste system where people were literally going through the bins that were taken round back of house and sorting them into clean waste streams to ensure that the recycling rates could stay as high as possible.
So, Claire, do you feel that the recognition from A Greener Future is going to help to drive change across the festivals industry, both inside and outside of London?
So when we first began, there wasn't really a lot of discussion or action in the mainstream of festival events, shall we say, and other types of events. So we thought, how can we make something that's almost an ambition or a target, and maybe competition also between the events to stimulate that interest. In addition to looking at carbon and waste and environmental impacts and behaviour change, it's also about biodiversity impacts. And we really look at whether an event is, of course, not having a negative impact on the environment, but even further, we want to see that the power of events is even enhancing biodiversity, and that's the same for whether it's a temporary event or a permanent venue. So that's something that we hope to see for events going forwards, that it's a part of that mix to enhance biodiversity as well as reduce emissions and waste.
Wait, so can you expand on that a bit more? How can biodiversity be improved by festivals?
On the one hand, you could, through funds raised by the event or through the community and the hands of people who are part of that event, you can go out to do work, whether it's putting up nests or planting trees or doing something that's a clean-up for the rivers. We've seen a lot of that happening through event communities and networks or via artists in the past. Some places have got the benefit of also owning their site or having a very close collaboration with the site owner, and there you could go even further, that you're actually bringing nutrients into the site, whether that's compost from food or compost toilets, or you're bringing water into a site if it's a country that's got a water scarcity, and then that can enhance the environment in that way as well.
I see. Interesting. And so, well, Sam, as Claire has already mentioned, the AGF certification is an annual review where each year they're looking for improvements. What is your long-term vision for AEG? Is it to become completely zero waste or carbon neutral?
So net zero, definitely the end goal. That means essentially electrifying as much as we can. Looking at things like battery power, looking at things like being able to hook up our sites to the national grid. So that involves huge stakeholder management pieces where we work with different players. So it work with the Royal Parks, for example, work with all of our suppliers to make sure that can actually happen. And also kind of investigating new technologies like battery power and hydrogen. But also with waste, there's so much that can be done in that space. I think Claire mentioned it a bit earlier. We have to start attaching value to the things that we use, and just seeing something as disposable is ultimately incredibly problematic for the sustainability and the future of our planet. We need to understand that everything that we make and everything we throw away has a little carbon tag attached to it and has an environmental impact in terms of where it's come from, how it was made, and where it will eventually end up, so we don't have to put so much stress onto the planet's resources in the future.